This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning into the program. It's Wednesday, December the 10th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Matt Barron sitting in the producer's chair this morning. You'll be speaking with Matt when you pick up the phone to give us a call, get in the queue and on the air. If you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 86. 26, so I do enjoy giving a shout out to local athletes doing well on the provincial scene, on the national scene, on the international scene. So this morning, Tyler Roberts, who plays for Dalhousie University at Tigers as a football player. Now, it's not that long ago, there was no such thing as organised football or a football field or football players here in the province, but now apparently we're punching above our weight again. Tyler's the first ever Newfoundlander to play for Dalhousie on the Tigers football team. He's starting freshman on the offensive line as the right guard, also played special teams and named to the league All-Star team as well. First team All-Star with Dal. So congratulations, Tyler Roberts, playing some ball at Dal. And I see this story back in the news today about Penny Oleksiak, the most decorated female Olympian in Canadian history. So you know the story. She's been suspended or banned for 2 years from competition. She's not allowed to train with the coach or with the Olympic team. So she's training in a public pool. She says she's going to focus on competing in the next Olympics, but I mean, the future, 2 years out. I mean, she's only 25 years old, now living in Los Angeles. So she failed 3 whereabouts tests. So she had a certain amount of time to get a drug test. She missed 3 in a row, consequently suspended. It's not like the doping conversation is new. We've been talking about this for decades. And she's denying any doping accusations, but boy, it's hard to justify missing 3 tests if you're not doping. And I have no idea what the actual circumstances are, but it brings in all of the thoughts about performance-enhancing drugs in the sports period. And the integrity of sports, which I think is going to be compromised in the future, not just about drugs, but mostly about betting. And you've heard me talk about it before, but poor old Penny Oleksiak back in the news. All right, and for the folks who like to get out for a little twirl around the Bannerman Park ice skating loop, it's now open. It's a brilliant opportunity to get out. The Christmas lights are there. There's generally a lot of good vibes. They recommend a helmet, which is probably a very, very good idea. You can't bring your hockey stick. You can't bring a puck or those types of issues. But the Bannerman Park Loop, open 10 to 10 when weather is cooperating. All right. Thankfully, and I don't know what took so long, but the old American inventory of alcohol at the NLC is back up for sale. And so yesterday there was an announcement of some $500,000 donation to the Community Food Sharing Association. Another $1 million may indeed be pending as a result of the sale. So net profits from the sale of $3.2 million worth of American inventory. It's the right thing to do. We probably could have gone a step further, but bravo to finally get this done. And you just think about it. You know, in Edmonton in 1981 was the first ever Canadian food bank. And we were told at the time it was a temporary solution for an economic upheaval in the province of Alberta, specifically the city of Edmonton. And now all these years later, and all of a sudden, a couple of million plus Canadians with a full reliance on food banks. It's amazing. It really, truly is when you think about it. The opportunities in this country, and people talk about natural resource wealth or what have you, and fair enough. But go from a temporary Band-Aid in 1981 to what is ongoing today. I mean, just look at the Community Food Sharing Association, just how many food banks they support and how many individuals rely on their support. And it's not just folks who are down on their luck. There's people who work full-time jobs have to go to the food bank. So anyway, good on the government for finally getting this done, but there you go. And on the concept of the groceries and access to, I think it's an interesting conversation being led by farmers, trying to propose a cap on profits at the big grocery retailers. They mentioned the 3 big ones in particular, but there's 5 companies dominate 80% of the opportunity to buy groceries in this country, so we're always up for that type of conversation. And on that front, it brought forward some of these insolvency numbers, and this is also quite sad stuff. Insolvency numbers in this province are out of control. The province saw a 5.9% increase in bankruptcies and proposals for the 12-month period ending on October 31st. That is down from 8.9% the month before, but the national average, 0.7%. That's the most recent update. So obviously a lot of people, we wonder aloud how people are able to make ends meet, especially if you're on the lower income scale. But man, the insolvency numbers in this province when compared to the national average is unbelievable. All right, I'm not so sure how to approach this one, but today, the 10th of December, for youth in Australia under the age of 16, you'll be banned from social media. All right, so they're talking about the ban from Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Reddit, Threads, and Kick. I'm not even sure what Kick is. All right. So, for starters, it's probably not going to work. I mean, youth in Australia and others have been asked about any potential workarounds, and there's plenty available. So they still will indeed be on some of these social media platforms, whether it be by the use of a VPN or otherwise. Social media, I think, if we're being honest, is a failed experiment. It's gone from fun and information sharing to something vastly different. I was on the receiving end of some interesting stuff yesterday, but anyway, that's beside the point. I heard Jerry Lynn Mackey speaking to youth in the community yesterday for a bit of Streeter tape on the VOCM Morning Show today. And she posed the best question. It was, who should be responsible for control of social media? The government, the parents, or the tech companies? Government is an interesting question. I understand the motivation here because for youth it can be extremely problematic, whether it be for the relentless and endless cyberbullying, whether it be for things like sextortion and child sex luring. All of these things are very real. We understand it to be true. But government intervention here is just not going to work. And then you talk about the tech companies. Well, we know they don't care, right? Clicks are money. Subscribers are money. So they have done very, very little to protect the general public, specifically youth, from all of the digital ills and evils that lurk around every corner. So the tech companies aren't the answer. Look, for young people, obviously they enjoy social media, as do many adults, even though plenty of people abuse it. And boys, oh boys, when I grow up, someone who loves me, please take my phone away if I become a social media troll. And here's some of the quotes coming from teenagers in Australia. Here's one in particular from a 15-year-old. I don't think the impact will be very positive for us. We don't have a lot out there to get in contact with each other. Doesn't that say it all? Don't have an avenue or opportunity to connect with each other with any other avenue versus social media? Boy, oh boy. So things are getting lost in the shuffle there, but I think it's an interesting conversation about social media use. And it does boil back to the parents and to encourage appropriate use, whatever the level that might be for you and your family. I'll leave it up to you. But the way people currently use social media and how dark and toxic it has become in so many corners, you can scroll through and have some person talk about a recipe to a happy dance to sharing information and posting cute pictures, all the way down to things that are vastly different than that. Anyway, you want to take it on? We can do it. And I think there's also a conversation to be had with our families about artificial intelligence. Number one, government has to put forward legislation about how government uses artificial intelligence, not to impose any necessary restrictions on individuals as taxpayers and voters. But, some of the work that's been done, it seems to be just in one ear out the other for so many. We've already had an issue inside of education about critical thinking and academic outcomes. Even if you just look to some, I think, reputable organizations like MIT and MIT's Media Lab, they conducted a pretty broad study. 54 subjects, 18 to 39 years old, all in the Boston area. And they asked them to write SAT essays using OpenAI's ChatGPT. So one group used ChatGPT, another one used Google, and another group used nothing at all, other than their own brains, their own critical thinking, and their own skills. So the outcome was also crystal clear. The people who were in the ChatGPT group, they produced the least brain activity across 34 regions of all three groups. They had the lowest brain engagement and consistently underperformed at neutral linguistic and behavioral levels. So these things, which don't feel like a big deal, but just think about how discourse, conversation, and dialogue has taken a turn for the worse for the most part. There's still plenty of pleasant people out there having productive and constructive conversations. But when we talk about the youth of today and social media and artificial intelligence, what do we think the outcome is going to be? it's not going to be great. Artificial intelligence has proven to be pretty helpful in fields like engineering and statistical compilation and inside of healthcare, but otherwise, maybe not so much. Your thoughts? All right, let's move. Criminal justice. You know, we know the federal government has proposed tough on crime legislation yet to be tested in the courts, just like when Stephen Harper did it, and it went through the Supreme Court and was deemed to be against the Charter, unconstitutional. And these are consecutive sentences and a variety of things. But one catchphrase that gets a lot of traction in this country is jail, not bail. I get it. A news story I read this morning about these numbers coming from Ontario in particular. They talk about the numbers of people that are behind bars in that province is over 80% are on remand. They haven't been found guilty of anything. So down at HMP, we're told repeatedly that it's in and around 60+% are on remand. They weren't granted bail or they couldn't produce bail. So I get the concept. But what is really bizarre is that we don't formally track crimes being committed, especially violent crimes being committed while on bail. We don't know the exact numbers about folks accused of a violent crime that get bail and consequently offend while on bail. It'd be probably very helpful to get some actual data associated with that, because now it's an opinion being offered versus being backed up by any sort of data. So it's a strange thing to not track because it's important. Public safety is a real concern when asked by the Department of Justice here in this province. Polling nationally, people talk about public safety and they feel less safe than they once did. So the whole jail, not bail, I understand the sentiment behind it. Of course we do. If you're accused of a violent crime, people talk about the revolving door, right? You get charged with something, you either get a slap on the wrist, you get bail, you breach all your conditions, you're back in front of a judge, and the cycle continues and continues and continues and rinse and repeat. But the numbers, like in Ontario, over 80% of people in the prison population are on remand. So here's some of the numbers. The jail population averaged 10,800 prisoners, while the province's jails had a maximum capacity of approximately 8,500 beds. So there's a reason we're building a new penitentiary, not because it's antiquated and it's a dungeon, but people are thinking and talking more about public safety. And everybody understands why, because for the most part, the Stats Canada numbers regarding crime are problematic for a variety of reasons. And if you want to take it on, we can do it. All right, let's get back into industry. So this week is 1 year since the Upper Churchill Memorandum of Understanding was brought forward in a pretty glossy, glitzy press conference at the Rooms. Okay. So I know some people don't want to hear much from the official opposition at this moment in time, given the Liberals were in position of power for a decade plus. But their role is clear, and the questions they're being asked, I think, are shared by many, regardless of the political party you support. So here's the questions being posed by the Liberals on this front, and I think they're fair. Is Premier Wakeham choosing members of the Independent Review himself? Because it once was some sort of global organization was going to conduct this independent review, but now apparently we're just going right back down the path of a 3-person independent panel appointed by the government. Are negotiations with Quebec paused? It's a good question. Has the Premier had discussions with other potential partners, which is an excellent question. We talk about industrial strategy, whether it be for mines or mining expansion, critical minerals, supply chain stuff, artificial intelligence, data centers, and all the way through. So are any of those conversations happening? And there's another one. When the proposed referendum will be held, and who will draft the question? And what is the plan to develop Gull Island if the deal does not proceed? I don't think anybody's suggesting signing a deal for a deal's sake because of some timeline put forward by the province of Quebec, which is April of next year. But the referendum question is pretty interesting. So will it be about the current MOU, whether it's going to require further clarity? And as I heard John Hogan say, and he's right, when Quebec had their last referendum, it resulted in the establishment of a Clarity Act, so that there was actual clearly defined questions to be broached, whether we're talking about separation or referendum on an MOU or whatever the case may be. But the conversation is just too big, too important, with decades-long implication to not have a real good understanding of exactly what's going on. To that end, let's put the pressure on to reopen the House. I mean, why not? If so many people are wondering or worried about this proposed deal with the province of Quebec, let's just get some questions posed and answers offered. I don't think there's a downside to it, and it doesn't matter who you vote for, because remember, over the course of the next 50 years, governments will change hands many, many, many times, but the deal will remain in place. So I get the concept of doing it right. Why wouldn't everybody who's listening to this program or not listening to this program want to make sure we do this right? Get the best deal possible with all the risks identified and understood, and go from there. And whether or not the deal goes by the wayside, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, the possibility is real. I mean, we all see the polling numbers in Quebec. Legault and the coalition d'Avenir, they're done. They're cooked. They might not even win a seat. The separatist party, the Parti Québécois, who looks like they're poised to win, they've already said they're walking away from it. They think it's a great deal for us, a terrible deal for Quebec, which is the politics of it all, as opposed to the commercial arrangement that we should be thinking about or talking about a little bit more. Your thoughts? All right. Oh, so apparently we're getting a provincial fiscal update next week from Finance Minister Craig Pardy. I'm looking forward to it on a couple of fronts. Number one, we're told that the actual fiscal reality in the province is worse than we already understand. So whether that be the deficit at $626 million, which includes all the big tobacco money and the level of borrowing. So it'd be nice to have a peek under the cover or behind the curtains to see exactly what the Tories have discovered since they've been in government, which is not a long time. We understand they need to get their footing solid before we proceed. Anyway, let's keep going. Oh, MOUs. Okay, so yesterday in Parliament, of course, it's just, for the most part, it's theatre. And that doesn't matter who's been in government or who's been in opposition over the last number of decades. There's a lot of theatre that happens, and some of it is just an absurd waste of time. Yesterday, so look, to pretend that every single member of the Liberal government is in favour of the MOU regarding a pipeline from Alberta to BC's north coast, obviously that's not true. You'll have members from Quebec who'll have a problem with it, you'll have members from British Columbia who'll have a problem with it, and others who may be more focused on things beyond pipelines and maybe more focused on things like climate change policy. So there was a motion put forward yesterday by the CPC, which is absolutely their right, but it was about the MOU, but only parts of the MOU. And so some Liberals voted against it because, fair enough. An interesting exercise for me would be if a motion from the Conservatives said, here is the MOU in full. Investment in Pathways Alliance, the industrial carbon tax to increase by a factor of 6, and all the pipeline-related matters regarding consultations with Indigenous communities and the province of British Columbia. If you put it all in front of the country, if you put it all in front of the governing Liberals, it would probably be a bit more eye-opening than what the result was yesterday. But anyway, that's a lot. All right, last one. So while we're told that if necessary, based on some sort of emotional whim, there might be severe tariffs on Canadian fertilizer, potash in particular, so that's one thing. But even the Americans, and we have to deal with the American policy because it impacts us directly, whether people like it or not. And this is about their national strategy regarding defence. And so yesterday, the Secretary of Defence, Pete Hegseth, saying things like this. Allies that step up, like Israel, South Korea, Poland, will receive our special favour. Allies that do not will face consequences. And those allies, notably, will be the UK and Canada. So talk about stepping up. And lots of conversations about NATO. Article 5 has only been triggered once. By who? The Americans, on the heels of 9/11. And people and allies stood up, including Canada and the UK. So I don't know what this is, step up like Israel, South Korea, and Poland. The allies that suffered the highest number of casualties in Afghanistan after America, the United Kingdom and Canada. So ask the families of the 158 members of the Canadian military who died in Afghanistan over that prolonged war that we got dragged into, and we're not allies? Excuse me? And we're a national security threat? What? Anyway. Oh, and last one. So we had a conversation with a caller yesterday, and obviously he and I disagreed on his thoughts on a couple of issues, which is fine, right? Nothing personal. I don't know the man. So it's certainly not personal to me. But boy, oh boy, since that, the amount of stuff that I've seen about how much disdain people have for me and how much they hate me, and I shouldn't be allowed on the air and I should be removed, and the propaganda and the bias, and one email that was particularly bad. Now, if it wasn't so sad, it'd be funny. this person, I don't know if it's a man or woman, said based on the fact that I didn't agree with someone's opinion, is that they said, too bad the COVID jab didn't kill you. What? What? Really? But that's kind of where we are, though, right? Differing opinions has now brought that reaction. I mean, not everyone's like that, but boy, oh boy, if you'd like to call about that issue, which was apparently controversial, or anything else under the sun, if we disagree, that's okay. That's okay. I don't have the brain power to want to hate you or wish you dead because you don't agree with me, because that's the nature of the beast, right? We all don't agree on everything. It's just kind of a bit of human nature. We're on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line. You can follow us there. Email address is openline@VOCM.com. When we come back, let's have a great show. That means you're in the queue. The topic, up to you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go. Line number 2. Bill, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, this is Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Yeah, I'll call up, hate to say this, but I'll call up to disagree with you.
Fair enough. Let it fly.
Can we do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Gonna bring it on? Yeah, okay, no, so you had a caller yesterday about snow tires, and I think he said, at the end of his call, he said, you're completely correct. You can't, in the left lane is a passing lane, and he says, you're not allowed to pass in the right lane. Hello?
Yeah, I'm just listening.
Okay, and then, so he was saying passing on the left lane at 100 is usually a recipe for people to get and pass out in the right lane. And then you said you're not allowed to pass on the right lane.
Correct.
But that's not true.
I believe it is.
Okay, well, okay, this is where I disagree, because the Highway Traffic Act in Section 97, subsection 1B, and he said it goes on to, I mean, this is what we're talking about, right? The rules of the road, right? So it says, the driver of a vehicle shall not overtake and pass on the right of another vehicle except B, when on a laned roadway there are one or more unobstructed lanes available to traffic moving in the direction of traffic of the vehicle. So you're, according to that, you're allowed to pass on the right.
As an exemption. Yeah, okay. I can buy that.
Okay, well, that's the rule, right? You know, that's the rule. It says so on a two-lane road, or laned roadway is how they you can pass on the right. So what you said was wrong, right? You can pass on the right on a laned highway.
Okay.
Okay, so so that sets up the whole thing. See, people said that you can only pass on the left is not correct. So if someone's in the left lane, let's say the Outer Ring Road, and they're traveling at, I don't know, maybe they don't feel traveling at 100, but they're traveling at 90, and somebody behind them says, well, I feel safe, I could travel up to 100. He has the option to move around them. He can pass on the right and go ahead of him, or her, whoever's driving the car. So, you know, the two lanes are driving lanes. It's not one is not a is and I think two lanes are driving lanes, and you can pass on the right if someone's obstructing because they don't feel safe traveling at the posted speed. So they're entitled to be there, and
I think it bolsters the point that if you pull out to the left lane to get past somebody for whatever reason, at that point when it's safe to return to the right lane, it's probably a good idea to do that so that we don't have people passing on the right. When people have that thought in their mind that, okay, I've been in the left lane, I passed the vehicle that I wanted to, that slow-moving truck going up the hill or what have you, now it's safe to get back in the right lane, do it so that we can use the left.
If you want to, you just said for whatever reason, if you feel safe, if you feel more comfortable in the right lane, take it. But I mean, you know, the person in the left lane on the divided highway like the Outer Ring Road is entitled to be in the left lane, and there's no restrictions to passing on the right or on the left on those types of highways.
Yeah, I'm more inclined to think about
the Highway Traffic Act.
I'm more inclined to think about what's the safest way to get home versus what is allowed based on exemptions to be passing in the right lane. That's just me though. I'm not so worried about what you just read. I'm more worried about just safe passage, people being on similar if not the same page with using the left lane to get by someone who you think is going too slow or who are tapping the brakes or whatever they're doing that causes you to want to get past them, and then when safe to return to the right lane, then do it. And
if
probably
you want to go back into the right lane, but if you're going farther on, then you're entitled to use the left lane. It's not the right lane is also a passing lane, and the left lane is a passing lane. So there is no one passing lane on a multi-lane divided highway. There is no designated passing lane. This is what this rule in the Highway Traffic Act says. I mean, this is what it implies, is that you can pass on the left, you can pass on the right.
Yeah.
You don't believe me? I mean, it's written there. I'm not making
You can
this
read
up,
the Highway
Eddie.
Traffic Act to me all you like, Bill, and I don't know how much passion you have for this particular topic, but I'm talking about for how people get taught to drive and what the safest way is to proceed on a multi-lane road, whether it be the Outer Ring Road or the 401 or whatever the case may be. When it expands beyond 2 lanes, then it's a bit of a free-for-all, which is why it's so difficult to travel safely on some of these multi-lane highways versus what is a pretty fundamental approach to a 2-lane in both directions highway like we have, Outer Ring Road or other parts of the Twin Highway.
No, that's what you're talking about is an orthodox approach, and I'm a heretic, right? And there's a lot of people out there that are the same way because we're abiding by the rules of the road, and I'm allowed to pass on the right. And the traffic directional to control things, the signs that are there are telling me which lane to pick. And they're not saying, is not just a simple suggestion. There's actual arrows pointing into the lanes and telling me that I could use that lane if I'm driving. But this whole keep right except to pass, that's a sign that's posted on the highway in certain places.
Yes, we've had this conversation a lot recently.
No, it's not. It's not in the Highway Traffic Act. It's a sign. Okay, but people have believed now, they got this orthodox view that sign rules everything, and that's where the confusion is caused.
And that's where safety is increased.
Like you were saying yesterday, we need to be operating from a standard playbook. I agree with you. And I think it's up to someone at Highways and the Department of Highways or the Minister of Transportation or something like that, because it affects so many people. It's up to It's not up to me. I'm just doing what I can, no charge, But I want to be able to go on that highway safely. And according to Traffic Highway, unless they sit in our legislature and change that rule, then that's what it says, that I'm allowed to do that. And so. Anyway, I hate to disagree with you, Patty, but
Oh, I don't care. That doesn't bother me. I don't know you, so I'm not taking it personal. I'm just planning on, when I leave here today, driving as safely as I can, commensurate with weather conditions and daylight, and hopefully that means I get home safely to take the dog out for a pee. That's my goal.
Everybody deserves to get home safely at the end of the day, yes.
Appreciate the time, Bill. I appreciate the call.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Take good care. Bye-bye. All right, let's get a break. And when we come back, there's another caller who wants to talk about the Outer Ring Road, has an idea. What is it? We'll find out. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 1. Caller, you're on the air.
Oh, Patty, good morning. I've called before, just looking at a number of your issues that you're dealing with. Right now I got 6, but they're going to be very quick. Outer Ring Road, could this just be, solved by slowing the right lane down to, say, 80 kilometers an hour? That's my solution to that.
Yeah, I mean,
and the what do you call it? The Highways Traffic Act would change to do that. If you go over 5 kilometers an hour over the speed limit, you get a warning. And if you go over 10 kilometers an hour, you get a fine.
You can make the speed limit whatever you want. The unfortunate reality is, for anyone who travels on the highway, specifically this stretch of the Outer Ring Road, say between here and the Seal Cove turnoff, is a lot of people don't care what the posted speed limit is. You know, you'll have people doing 75, you'll have people doing 150.
Yeah, but you got to find them.
Yeah, you got to catch them to find them, and that's where I'm pretty sure I'm in the minority on this one, but I'm all in on the speed cameras. I just am, because you can't have a cop car.
I'm not, Paddy.
Oh, and fair enough. A lot of people aren't.
Ontario just eliminated them.
Yeah, based on some pretty bizarre rationale, though, too. Both Premier Smith and Premier Ford have talked about speed cameras just being a cash grab. No, speed cameras are intended to slow people down. You know, if it comes with, it's not a cash grab unless you're speeding.
There's another way to do that. It's by hiring on certain police that's what they do. They give you a fine. And I think in Newfoundland and Labrador we should eliminate all the speed traps and let the police do their job and get the court back in action.
The problem with that is that, look, I think most people will agree, nothing slows you down quite like a cop car, but the unfortunate reality is there's a lot of highway and byways to patrol and not enough cops, especially in the Traffic Enforcement Division, to actually do what you suggest.
The Ontario government had to eliminate speed traps. They had no other choice, and we're in the same position.
But
that's my opinion, Paddy.
Say what?
That's my opinion.
Oh, I can accept that. But my thought on it was to just call them a cash grab is a bit of a strange thing to say, given the fact that if you're not speeding, you won't be fined, and consequently you won't be separated from your cash. So it's just sort of a strange approach to...
Right now, you've got the court system shut down, which is like totally unreasonable, not allowed because of what's going on with speed traps. And it happened because of speed traps. We had to shut the court system down.
No.
It just happened in Ontario, Paddy.
Yeah, the provincial court closures here is not because of the number or the volume of speeding tickets.
They can't handle it, and people are, well, it's also involved with, what do you call it, really bad crime.
No, the criminal courts haven't been impacted. It's things like Contravention Act and some civil violations and...
It's all speeding tickets, right?
No. And it's not about how many tickets there are. It's about how many staff there are.
Let's let the, what do you call it, the VOC and listeners comment on it.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm going through divorce. I'm tight for money. I can't access the cash that I got, $200,000 till the 1st of January. And I was wondering about when, I say, CCP and all the... We're saying I'm going through divorce. My salary has dropped from, say, since I went to work when I was 16 pumping gas. And then I went and done engineering. I slowly got myself up to over 100,000. You know, I went through a 3-year really bad divorce. And I'm down to 27,000, Paddy.
I'm sorry to hear you're going through a bad divorce, and I can accept your opinion on whether it be traveling or speed limits or policing or speed cameras, whatever the case may be. And I wish you well into the future. Hope you have a great holiday season.
Oh, well, give me a chance now, Paddy. Can you find out, say, with Revenue Canada, I'm supposed to get, say, my CCP, which I really need. Is that going to come before Christmas?
CPP?
Yeah. And see other things, where I'm going to a really low salary, say $27,000, from over 100,000, 200,000.
Yeah, a couple of things. I can't get you any information about anything personal for you, but I can give some generic information.
Yeah, okay. That's another topic I'd like to talk to you about, Paddy.
What? I mean, there's what they call a special date before Christmas for CPP. I believe this year's the 22nd of December.
Okay, that's perfect. That answers my question.
Okay.
Concerning social media, it needs, like, I've eliminated social media for my own sanity.
Probably a smart thing to do.
Yeah, and I think everybody needs to do it, especially kids. Like when I went to school, we had a slow class. Anybody that was in trouble was in this class. They all turned it right. Eventually, right? And we changed that. The teaching system changed it, and now the teachers are tortured.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. There's still such thing as special needs classes, aren't there?
Oh yes, there is. At one time, let's say someone took them three years to get through grade 8.
Yeah.
They still passed on. They still got the best kind of businesses, but they were separated from everyone else. I never had to deal with them.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're getting at there, but
just ask. I'd ask, say, the teachers to call in.
Yeah, teachers, for the most part, are hesitant or loath to call about education matters because of fear of reprisal, and has long been the way, and it shouldn't be. People on the front lines are the most valuable voices, whether we're talking about education or healthcare or justice or anything else. I do have to get going, caller. I appreciate your time this morning. Have a great holidays. Merry Christmas. Very quickly. Very, very quickly.
My ex-wife was a teacher.
Okay.
She can comment on this. And she's retired, and she don't have to worry about.
Fair enough.
All right, sir. Thanks.
Take good care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. So there's a caller that wants to talk about the postal subsidy. Exactly what about that? We'll find out. Then Sean wants to talk about safety on the roads. Then whatever you want to talk about, don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 3. David, you're on the air.
Hello, Paddy. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I love the intro you did. A thing about postal subsidy makes me sound really dull, but I think when you guys hear what's going on, you'll find it's much more interesting and worrying than you might think.
I'm interested in most everything. Go right ahead.
It turns out something in Ottawa that just kind of slipped through in a big bill C-15 will remove the special rate that libraries get for from the post office to move books back and forth, and that is a big deal because I didn't realize this, but can you care to guess how many books are sent back and forth by the Newfoundland library system each year using that?
I have no idea.
Well, it's 200,000. Okay, 213,000. So that's nearly a quarter of all the stuff that people sign out of their public libraries relies on this system, and it's being cut, or if we don't stop it at the federal level. So it was just a single line in a very large bill. It slipped through until very recently. No one really was aware of it. You won't hear about it in the news yet, but I hope you're going to hear it soon. You got to write your MP right away if you want to see this dealt with. It's the kind of thing where some bureaucrat thought, it's a couple $1 million we can save, no one will notice, but particularly for rural libraries in Newfoundland, but any of the libraries really, this could be a real harm, right? You're a small library out around the bay, you just can't stock all the stuff that people would need. They have to rely on this, and they don't have the resources to pick up slack if that subsidy was removed.
Yeah, and I saw your email, and you think back to 2016 when we talked about huge cuts to funding for libraries and the threat for many libraries to close, and then we hear from public libraries talk about the fact that they are unable to rotate and bring in new materials, whether it be periodicals or books or CDs or other equipment and things that they loan from the libraries, because funding has been stagnant. Input costs are up. Funding has been stagnant for about a decade. So there's a bunch of problems facing libraries. Now add this to the mix.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and I hope that provincial MHAs will be listening into this as well, because with the new government, I think it is long past time to take another look at the provincial funding of the libraries, because many people listening will remember when there was a threat to close half the libraries, and everyone, suddenly woke up to the problem. But they did not solve the problem. Like, the funding didn't change after everyone got alarmed. The government told the libraries, don't shut half the libraries, find other ways to stay afloat, and that's what they did. But we're still looking at a library system where we spend 42% less per head on our libraries than the Canadian average, when God knows the costs for libraries, the fact that we need to have libraries spread out across a very large province, if anything, are higher. So there's clearly not a lot of slack in the system to pick up for problems that the feds are now about to hand us. But more fundamentally, the libraries, they do a wonderful job with the resources that we're given, but they desperately need a boost. So I would say, do 2 for 1. Write your MP, and also write your MHA and say, listen, can we have a properly resourced library system? I would add, by the by, that it's not just going to affect the public libraries; it'll also affect libraries like Munn's Library, which, if you're going to research, or if you're a student and you need to get a library book from elsewhere in the country, or some other materials, it's going to affect them too. They rely on the same system.
People will continually tell me that libraries are dead, they're the thing of the past, because of the fact that I've got all the information in the world right in the palm of my hand. But I don't think the numbers reflect that. I think people still do use and utilize libraries, and it's not just books and periodicals. So they have all the e-books available, DVDs, board games, video games. There are musical instruments, I think, you can get at the public libraries. What else is sort of strange and off the beaten track? Bird watching kits. I mean, there's a lot that goes on in the library, and it's part of the community. So to see it go by the wayside because of funding, and the stagnant funding that we've experienced in this province for a decade plus, is, I don't think, helpful. Even though, yes, I have a library in my hand right now. I'm holding on to my smartphone, but it's not the same as, the same thing I think could be said for the newspaper business. I can read the newspaper on my phone, but there's nothing quite like a broadsheet in your hand. A broadsheet.
Well, yeah, and there's a person there in your local library whose whole job is to help you to find stuff out, right? or if you just need somewhere warm, or if you don't have a computer, or your computer doesn't work so well, you can go into the library and there's 100 reasons why we need libraries aside from books. But clearly, like, the fewer the books you can get a hold of, the lower the resources, the less the libraries get used, and the next thing you know, people say, oh, well, there's not so many people coming into the library, we can close this one down. No, we need to have properly supported, decent libraries. They're valuable, one of the very, they're not that expensive relative to all the other things we spend money on. They're super important.
Let me add this to it. It's just an email that I saw out of the corner of my eye, and this is from someone at the CNIB. It says, in addition to Canada Post cutting services to libraries, literature for the blind was normally shipped for free through Canada Post. This is a service that will be cut. Libraries or other organizations won't be able to send Braille documents anymore, or audiobooks or CDs, to people that are blind or partially sighted. This will be a major blow to the blind community, which I hadn't considered, but this is from the CNIB, so they know.
Yeah, I heard that they did leap on that one, and rumor has it that the post office will not be doing that.
Oh,
but
good.
Then that doesn't necessarily mean that's a choice that the post office is making, right? Now, the whole purpose of the C15 is basically to say the post office will now have free rein to charge what it needs to make its money back, which is okay, but but that's the problem, is that the post office does a bunch of stuff that isn't profitable that we need it to do anyway, right? Like shipping books back and forth. So while I'm delighted that Canada Post may be deciding to do that, but it worries me a little because, of course, once it has the freedom to elect to provide ship books back and forth to the blind for free or not, then a future Canada Post could decide to change that. Same with the library book rate. I think that's why it was in the legislation in the first place, and that's why it needs to stay there.
I appreciate the topic and the time. Anything else this morning, David?
No, I don't think so. But I kind of it's a sad thing, but I'm glad that this new threat to libraries helps give it a reason to remind people that the library system needs our support and needs more support than it has already. So I hope people will leap into action and show people that we care about our local libraries. They're vital.
I appreciate the time, Dave. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Bye-bye. All right, let's get another one before the news. Let's go to line number 2. Sean, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Great today. You?
Good. I was listening to when you started out there in your preamble about people disagreeing and emails and all that. In my opinion, I think you're a very intelligent man. You can carry on a conversation about most anything. You may not be right all the time, but you're certainly not wrong all the time. So we'll leave that there.
Yeah, well, let me add to it, though. I am absolutely 100% not right all the time. I've come to learn that the hard way many, many times. When I'm wrong, I can admit I'm wrong, and on we go, because it's not personal. We just try to be informative and entertaining and let the chips fall where they may.
That's right. And if anybody thinks, if someone thinks they're right all the time, they're definitely wrong.
Well said.
No, I'm calling about highway safety. And it's about tractor trailers, drivers. I've got the greatest respect in the world for tractor trailer drivers. For the amount of kilometers they drive, and they drive in all kinds of weather and conditions, and the amount of accidents that's on the highway that either they cause or they're involved with is very little for the amount of driving they do. And, you know, some of the areas they got to go in, it's sort of crazy. But I'm just going to give you food for thought there. It's just something I was thinking about. And correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I know, most of them, probably not the private ones, but the ones, most of them, are being paid by the kilometer, or they're being subsidized by the amount of kilometers they're driving, which means they may be getting an hourly wage or whatever, but the more kilometers they drive, as far as I know, the more money they make. Would that be correct?
I guess so. I don't really know.
No, and I really don't know, but maybe some drivers or someone, you know, can give us the heads up on it and just let us know how it happens.
Well, I know there's a couple of truckers that listen to the show all the time, and they send me notes all the time, so I guarantee you they're going to answer that question for me here sooner than later.
Yes, and the best of my knowledge, I may be wrong, but I think they do get subsidized by the amount of kilometers they drive per day or per trip or whatever.
I assume so.
Yes, but anyhow, if we're right on that, I honestly think, you know, I see some of those drivers driving the roads, and they're driving in crazy conditions, especially over around that wreck house area. And I've seen, since the winter started now, we've been getting bad weather. A few have jackknifed on the road, and there's a few doing possibly things they shouldn't be doing, you know, because the driver on here is slow, the weather is bad, they're pulling out and passing. I respect them that much that if I'm on the highway, I normally follow them, drive behind them, because that, to me, is probably the safest place to be. They got the big lights, they're used to driving in bad weather, and the moods and one thing another. But my point is, if you're a driver and you're getting paid by the kilometer, the more kilometers that you drive in a 12-hour period, whatever their logbook is good for, the more kilometers they drive, actually the more money they would make. Would I be correct on that, if they'd be paid by the kilometer?
Yeah, I guess so. But, of course, there are rules regarding how long they can drive per day and as many kilometers that they're allowed by law to drive and have to record it in their log books and those types of things. I know that much about it. But exactly how people get paid, I'm not entirely sure. But I'm hoping that a trucker listening now will chime in and give me some details so we can add it to the conversation. Before I get to the news, is there anything else you'd like to say this morning, Sean?
No, it's just, for me, the rest of the world, you know, are paid by contract or we're paid by hour. possibly if they were paid by the hour, not by the amount of kilometers they drive, then they probably wouldn't be taking some of the chances they take because they're going to be hourly based anyhow. So it doesn't matter if you drive 5,000 kilometers in a day or if you drive 3. They probably wouldn't be taking as many chances as they do.
Yeah.
Because they don't, you know, it's just a food for thought. Maybe the truckers can tune in and straighten us out on it.
Yeah, and I guess they travel as much as they have to based on deadlines for delivery. Sean, I appreciate your time. Thanks for doing it.
Perfect. You enjoy yourself.
You too. All the best. Bye-bye. All right, let's get a break for the news. When we come back, ton of time for you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 1. Cyril, you're on the air.
How you doing?
Great. You?
Oh, top notch.
Good.
I'm calling about every time you hear Newfoundlanders talk, oh, Quebec this, Ontario this, Manitoba this. Why don't they worry about their own selves in Newfoundland and do their own thing?
I think we do.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah. It's an interesting thought. So I guess worries about what goes on in other parts of Canada also does have an impact on us, whether it be about political sentiment, whether it be about real things like transfer dollars in healthcare, transfer dollars in equalization. So there are concerns here that are rooted elsewhere, but I get your point.
Well, I'm originally from Buckens Junction.
Okay.
Right up in the woods, central Newfoundland. And I work in Manitoba, in the mines, and I see a lot of guys come and go. A lot of guys left went to Voisey's Bay. You get to Voisey's Bay, it's not so nice. They want to come back to Thompson, but their jobs are already replaced. Like, that's all they talk about is Newfoundland, Quebec this, Quebec that, Ontario, Manitoba is no good for nothing, blah, blah, blah. So either make up your mind, either you're a Newfoundlander or Labradorian or who you want to be, where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I get your point. You know, I'd also add to it, it's the disproportional representation in the House of Commons that also, you know, leads to decisions made about benefiting Quebec or benefiting Ontario or benefiting BC. Because in this province, with 7 seats, we don't bring a whole lot of clout to the argument. So I think that's another reason why people look at other provinces and what they get or what they don't get, or policies they create and the benefits that flow their way, versus maybe not the same attention given to smaller provinces like us and PEI, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. So I guess that may be part of it as well, I suppose.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Because, like, up here, I'm just visiting Sault Ste. Marie, and there's about 3 feet of snow here. Everybody's towing everybody out. Everybody's stuck. Back in Newfoundland, apparently the rain is coming. It's going to get rid of some snow, hopefully. But they're all bitching about Newfoundland, Newfoundland this, Newfoundland that, and mainland this, mainland that. I don't know. Like, I fly, it take me 2 days to fly from Newfoundland to get to Thompson, Manitoba to go to work. When Voisey's Bay takes 2 hours from Deer Lake to Voisey's Bay, and they bitch and complain about that. But I don't know.
It's interesting that you bring up Voisey's Bay and Thompson in the same sentence, because I'll just put this out. There's not really what we're talking about, but while Long Harbour was being built, we were told that every spoonful of nickel that went to either Sudbury or Thompson for processing would be replaced. And I wonder, has that happened? Because Long Harbour was under construction for years.
That was Danny Williams. Yes.
Yeah.
And did it get replaced or no?
I don't know.
Do we know?
That's the question I'm asking. And it would be nice to know, because that's work. And there had to be plenty of nickel shipped out of here to both Sudbury and Thompson during construction at Long Harbour.
So where did it go? Nobody heard talk of it from day one since forever.
I did ask then Minister responsible Andrew Parsons a number of years ago about it, and I believe, if I can recall correctly, is that the response was, we'll get you an update, we'll get you some numbers. And apparently it was happening, but whether or not every spoonful was returned, I don't know, but I'll find out now that you got me thinking about it.
Yeah, because I don't, my opinion, I don't think it was, but politics, I guess. I don't know.
That's part of it. So, there's always going to be the need for conversations and concerns or questions about the Federation to be asked. So, but like, I'm most worried about what's happening in my backyard, and I think that's probably the most popular sentiment out there. People worried about their own lives, but then with the way we watch the news and the way we use the internet and the way we use social media, all of a sudden concerns can be as far afield as Ukraine and Gaza and Africa and the United States, which we hear a lot about.
And Thompson is up for sale, so I don't know if that has any effect with Voisey's Bay or Sudbury.
I don't know.
Any word on that one?
Not that I know of, but I do know, even when you're talking about Manitoba, one of the big major projects moving forward here federally is for the Northern Port up in Churchill. I think it's called Churchill, yeah.
And they also got one going on in Lynn Lake, which is just north of Thompson.
That's right, yeah.
Big mine opening up. But this one with Thompson, where they're up for sale, and I don't know if that's going to affect Voisey's Bay and Sudbury or what.
I really don't know. I don't know what the impact might be, and nor do I know if Long Harbour's operating at maximum capacity, to be honest. I assume it is, but assumptions are tricky pieces of way to assess and to digest information.
Well, with this Voisey's Bay Nickel Valley, with Sudbury Valley and Thompson Valley, are they all connected? Is when Valley's up for sale right now, as I know. If that goes up for sale, does it affect Sudbury and Voisey's Bay?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think you said Valley's up for sale, but I know you meant Thompson's up for sale, right?
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
So if that's up for sale, is Sudbury up for sale and Voisey's Bay up for sale as well?
No, Voisey's Bay is not for sale at this moment in time.
All right.
As far as I know.
Okay.
Cyril, I appreciate the time.
Right on.
All the best. All right, bye-bye. Yeah, it's an interesting question because we were told in no uncertain terms that every spoonful of nickel that went from this province to either Sudbury and or Thompson would be returned. It would be nice to get an update on that front. And then, we just mentioned some of the major projects that have been on the fast-track list. There's been 2 lists that have been publicly disclosed. I think the first was 5 projects. Then the second list had 6 projects, none of which include this province. And what projects in this province could be on the fast track list inside the major projects office? I'll leave it up to you and your opinion on it right after this break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 2. Ken, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Hi there.
I got a comment about your rude caller yesterday, but first I got this. Okay. I went looking for the video that he was advising you to watch, okay? And the actual title is The Invisible Machine, Electromagnet Warfare, HAARP, HAARP.
Yep.
Microwave weaponry. Now, I'm going to save you the time. I watched the whole 45 minutes, okay? Because I wanted to see for myself. And I found it not a little bit conspiratorial, but a nice bit conspiratorial. There was one thing that they mentioned. Something happened on Bell Island, I believe, if memory serves, in 1978. The house sort of got blown up, and then this was part of that. I mean, they had graphics up. They had like lightning balls coming through people's windows and stuff like that. Now, obviously, this was all made up for dramatic effects. I'm sure that nobody had cell phones in 1978 where they got them where they can. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
So this video, okay, was published in 2015. Sorry, so 10 years ago, and you'd swear that okay. Now, fast forward to 2025, you think the way they were getting on that we'd be all dead now, right? From microwave weaponry and stuff like that. So I save you the time. Don't bother watching it. Now, you can probably find the facts about what happened on Bell Island in 1978. And they talk about it in the video, and they use that as part of their conspiratorial thoughts or whatever. Now, about this guy that called, Okay. I thought he was rather rude. I mean, to say that your listening audience is dying off, that to me, he was, okay, there was no real argument. You were just offering your opinion. But because you would not go along with what he was trying to put out, he got insulting as far as I'm concerned, which is usually what happens when a lot of people are like that. It happens on both sides of the political spectrum. A lot of people, when they're losing an argument or debate, they get insulting. And, where did this guy come up with the idea that you're losing your audience? The only way you're going to lose your audience is when all of us older people die off, and by that time you dead too. But right now, I'm 66 years old. Mm-hmm. I'm basically a new caller.
Yeah, I appreciate making time.
I'm basically a new listener. It's only in the last year or so that I started listening to you, right?
And I appreciate you tuning in and calling this morning. I mean, however many people are listening, I mean, I can't think about that. I can't dwell on that. Because if there's one person or 100,000 people, I have to do the job the same way. So I don't get too worried about those things. There are ratings that are just non-stop rating season here in the radio business. And the numbers are strong. And I really appreciate it. So whether or not people, and here's something that I think, and I'll be happy to say, look, for people who like me or like the show, they listen when they can, but people who hate me and hate the show, they listen all the time. So I think it's great.
Yeah. So, and I mean, this actually come under my radar. Somebody that I know in Newfoundland, that person put out a video, and she didn't have very, very nice things to say about you. Now, I know you don't always get it right, and there have been times when I disagree with you, but I find your show very entertaining and very insightful, most times, right? And so, to say, this particular person said, basically, in my interpretation, she said that VOCM was an extended arm of the Liberal Party. I absolutely disagree with that. I'm sure VOCM don't get things right all the time, and I'm sure they make a retraction when they find out they're wrong. Nobody can get it right all the time, Patty.
Yeah, no, I get that. And if anybody sitting in a chair like this is thinking that they're infallible, well, they're wrong. Because not everybody has all the answers. Not everybody knows everything. Not everybody gets everything right. Not anybody gets everything right all the time. It's just not a thing. So I'm mindful of it. And this whole bit about propaganda and being an arm of the Liberal Party, well, I'm a terrible Liberal then. Because I've just spent the last decade criticizing the Liberals, right? Because they're in government.
I mean, I called you a few times about the industrial wind industry possibly coming to Newfoundland,
okay.
and I deemed you. You were on our side as far as I was concerned, but you were only pointing out what could happen should these wind turbines be put up in Newfoundland. So I don't see you like that at all, and in regards to comments, I actually recorded your session yesterday where you started talking to, I forget his name now, and so I recorded the whole thing, and I put a little commentary up there, and I didn't say anything, okay? This is how I wrote it. I put this on my Facebook page, and I just said, NATO and Gander, Newfoundland, ? And I said, things got a little lively on the Patty Daly show today. When a caller mentioned a particular topic, Patty was quick to jump in and share his thoughts. And then I provide the link and check it out here. Now, I saw some comments on there that I didn't like, but I believe people are entitled to their opinion of you or me or anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just part of the job, right? And you know it coming in. And, early on, that some of the more harsher things, they kind of stung. Now they just don't anymore because I'm kind of used to it. I can take things with a grain of salt. And look, if people are mad about something I said or something they heard, I get it. And fair enough. Sometimes it gets a little bit much, though. Like, to tell me that you hate me, okay, that's fine. Because not everyone's going to like anybody doing whatever job in this world. But when someone sent me an email saying it's too bad the COVID jab didn't kill me, I thought, man, that's a bit much, isn't it? it? Wishing me dead because I didn't agree with something it's a wild time to be alive.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, that's an awful thing to say. I mean, I wouldn't wish something like that on. I don't know if I got any real enemies. I got a lot of people that disagree with me and stuff like that.
Sure.
I've been involved in the political world for a long time, but I've never said, I wish you would have died from the COVID shot. Now, myself, I didn't take a COVID shot, but that was my choice. If you took a COVID shot, that was your choice. I have no right to get involved with your medical affairs, and if you choose to tell people that you took a vaccine or whatever, that's up to you.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think I was ever more sick of anything as a topic than maybe muskrat there for a couple of years, and then the entirety of the pandemic was tough. It was tough on everybody. It was tough on me. It was tough on the show. It was tough on the working man and woman. It was tough on kids, and the fallout has been pretty clear to see. And look, again, for people who don't like me, I understand. And I'll say this one that my buddies get a kick out of. To be perfectly honest, there's nobody more sick of me than me.
Yeah, to be honest, I got a little bit. I mean, I spent a fair bit of time on social media, and I'm a bit of a right winger and stuff like that. But I always allow on my Twitter account and Facebook page or whatever. I let people have their own opinions, unless they get really unfounded with their words. They come up with something that's totally stupid and not true. Then I ban people like that. Yeah, you're allowed to have a conversation with me. Okay?
Yeah, me too. And, I think we've gotten really caught up in right, left kind of stuff, and everyone's in a distinct camp. When we peel back the onion, most everybody has the same wants and needs in this world. A meaningful, gainful job, be able to pay the bills, be able to feed the family, be able to, nurture your friendships, they want to be healthy. I mean, we all are we're more alike than we are different. But the social media aspect has really carved us up into different teams or different factions or whatever the actual proper word is here. When, no matter if you're right wing or left wing, when you go home today, you pretty much want to have a couple of things. Something healthy to eat, the house to be warm, and the ability to pay your bills, and maybe even get to say hello to your buddies. That's about it. I mean, I've got a pretty simple life going here, other than from 9 to 12 weekdays.
Yeah, so I mean, like I rarely. Most of the stuff I put out on social media is what other content creators are putting out, and I do vet it all. Okay, sometimes I get it wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get caught up in the title. You know what I mean? A lot of people put what I call clickbait out there.
Oh yeah.
And throw you in, and then I don't read the article or watch the full video. Okay, so then I get caught up, and when I get corrected, I let people know. Okay, I stand corrected. Okay, and then once people that were following that particular post understand that I'm admitting that I made a mistake, then I delete the post, okay, and get rid of it.
Yeah.
Now, one more thing before I go, Patty.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if this is under your radar right now, but this broke yesterday on Twitter, and CBC put out an article, and this happened in Saskatchewan. And there's a title, and you can look it up yourself.
Okay.
Okay, so U.S. conservative commentator Glenn Beck offers help as Saskatchewan woman struggles to get surgery, gains attention. Now, apparently, this lady, according to the stories I've read, she needs surgery ASAP, but she can't get a surgeon in Saskatchewan that can accommodate her. So she has chosen MAID. Now, I don't know if that's something you want to look up at, but it's a real thing. It's a real story. And so Glenn Beck, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he's pretty popular in the States. He offered to pay for her way down, and he's actually got surgeons in the States now, stepping up to the plate saying that they'll do the surgery. So I thought I'd let you know that. And this is not a political thing or anything like that, okay? It speaks to our healthcare system in Canada, okay? I won't get into that right now, but I'm sure things are happening in Newfoundland as well, where people can't get certain surgeries or they're delayed for long time. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you, Patty.
Yeah, I saw that story. Glenn Beck is the guy behind The Blaze, a media company called The Blaze, and the lady's name is, I think it's like a Dutch name, Van something or other, and the motives are pretty clear here, right? With all the ongoing conversation regarding American healthcare, with the elimination of healthcare subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. People on that side of the political spectrum in the United States are trying to paint a very clear and rosy picture of their system and comparing it to things like universal health care in this country and wait times, what have you. And yeah, wait times are vastly less than they are in the United States than they are here. But that's a political ploy as much as anything else. Maybe there's some compassion involved, but there's a lot of politics involved in that one, because healthcare in the States is a big part of the conversation.
Well, healthcare in the States, I'm going to tell you what. You don't go for open heart surgery in the States unless you're paying wicked insurance payments, or you're going to pay out of pocket. Most people in Canada, regardless of our system right now, it's still free, to my knowledge.
Well, it's universal. We pay for it with our tax dollars, but you don't come out of pocket when you go to the doctor. And exactly 0 Canadians go bankrupt because of medical procedures. They may indeed have job interruptions or lose jobs and stuff like that, because that's the reality of poor health. But, the big shift in the United States is to move away. It's not just necessarily the subsidies. It's with the insurance companies and the way that it looks like they're going. If you have a pre-existing condition, you're not going to get covered. How many Americans have a pre-existing health condition? Millions and millions. So it's a strange world down there. I pay attention to it enough to know, or to try to know what's going on, but it is a clown show. I mean, politics in this country is bad enough. The American system of politics and the politicians, whoa, boy, oh boy, is that the best they can come up with?
I said that was, but I do have one more comment.
Okay, quick.
That guy that overstayed his welcome, he was asking you questions. And, like about standard pension and whatnot all. Now, I don't know if somebody's ever advised them to maybe set up a CRA account. Everything that you got coming in, it would be all there. Yeah, like a personal CRA account, right? I mean, if I want to find out right now if I'm due any GST or Canada pension or whatever in January, I can pretty much guarantee if I log into my CRA account, I will see it there.
There's a lot of helpful information. And on that front, with everything digitized, governments really need to up their game with protecting my information, whether it be health or financial or banking, because cyber warfare is as popular as warfare on the ground these days. Popular is the wrong word. Ken, I got to get going, but I appreciate you making time for the show.
All right, Patty, you have a great day.
You
now on, don't get too disappointed because Buddy thinks you got a dwindling audience. Okay.
I'm not too worried about any of that because I got to take a break, and thankfully there's another caller in the queue. So on we go.
All right, you have a great day, Kat.
You too. All the best. All right, bye-bye. Let's get that break. Rob, you stay right there. He's got a Christmas story. Excellent. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go. Line number 1. Rob, you're on the air.
Top of the morning to you, Patty.
Same to you.
I just got a little bit of a nice Christmas story here.
Okay.
So the wife and I went out for a little run there yesterday afternoon after I talked to you. And we went to the Piper store in Killigrews. And I was just going in, so the Sally Ann's got their can there. So I dug out all the change that I had in my pocket, and I put it in probably $7-8. Not a big lot, but it helped somebody. And we're just going through the store and stuff like that. And I seen a gentleman leaning on a cart. He had one little bit of a piece of beef into his cart, and he was staring into the freezer and everything like that, and just not knowing what he's thinking or anything like that. I didn't know him, and so I reached into my pocket and I had some bills in my pocket, and I just gave it to him, said Merry Christmas. And as we're going through the checkout and we're going out the line, here's this mister here putting some of that money that I gave him back into the kettle for the Sally Ann. And I just thought it was just a really good feeling that, everybody's giving forward at this time of the year.
Absolutely. It's like the bad news gets all the headlines, the good news not so much. Bad people get all the headlines, good people not so much. When in fact, if we're being honest with each other, there's probably more very good people out there than there is very bad people. And sometimes it takes something like the Christmas season to bring out some kindness in folks, but it costs nothing to be kind. And in this case, it actually costs some money. But yeah, there's lots of good people out there.
Yeah, and it was just one of those good feelings. I'm not a big Christmas person. I usually like to hunker down like the bears and sort of hibernate. I do what I can and stuff like that. But it was just really good to be there. And guess what? I drove there on my all-season tires.
Well, I'm glad you made it to and fro in a safe fashion. Appreciate the time and the story, Rob. Thanks a lot.
Okay, have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll add to the pile of names that are being thrown around, but apparently the comment that I made that we're probably a little more alike than we are different. And I said some pretty basic stuff, having some food to eat and hopefully to be healthy and the house to be warm and the kids to be good and have a good job. And, the things that I think we all share makes us more common than not. And someone said, that's a pretty Pollyanna way to look at it. Well, what is the other way to look at it? For people who are defined by their politics, is a strange way to live, just in my personal opinion. I mean, I talk about politics for a living for the most part, but I don't know why people just want to define who they are simply based on their political leanings or their favorite politician or whatever the case may be. And that's, favorite and fan. That's kind of what it's become, isn't it? Policy kind of be damned. We're in a place now where it's always been a popularity contest, but now it's more fandom than it is of, concern with policy and tone and temperament and vision. It's more now about whether or not that person's personality and their, culture or opinions are shared by you. When, again, look, politics has a huge impact on our day-to-day lives. Of course it does. But some people are strictly defined by their political following, their political leanings, I should say. When, just one more reminder, as much as I'm not always right because nobody is, your favorite politician or your favorite political party, they don't have all the answers. They don't. You might agree with the basic tenet of their political party or their political leanings or the historical context, but we've got to stop pretending that there's one politician or one political party that is all right and the others are all wrong. Because, of course, that's not true. But that's kind of where we are, right? If you're a liberal, you're an idiot, or if you're a conservative, you're an idiot, and there's no actual conversations. Conversations are a thing of the past. We are just making statements. And the ability to navigate even polite or pleasant conversation has been replaced with nasty, and conversations are over before they begin, right? We just assign a label. So you have a question or a concern about immigration, you're a racist. That doesn't have to be the truth. And if you have some concerns with public policy and public spending and international relations, all of a sudden, talking about the war in Gaza through any negative light associated with the Israelis, you're an anti-Semite. We're just not helping each other with that. Talk about climate change, all of a sudden it's a carbon tax. First thing out of your mind or out of your mouth is carbon tax, when there's a lot more to these conversations. And again, I know full well I'm not always right, because of course I'm not. I never have been always right. I never will be always right, which is why your input, your perspective, your conversation on the show is exactly what makes the world go around, including this program. Let's get a break in, but today's a good day to get on the show. If you're in and around town, 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. We're taking a break and then we're coming back. Welcome back to the program. One of my favorite phrases that I hear people throw around when we talk about government involvement in our day-to-day lives is "govern me hard or daddy." And that was something someone just wrote me when we talked about, as of today in Australia, that country's youth under the age of 16 will not be allowed, supposedly by law, to access social media accounts, whether that be, let's see here, I had the list of them: Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Reddit, Threads, and something called Kick. And the emailer pretty much said that, why would I think that it's a good idea for government to be able to involve themselves to that extent in the youth of Australia's lives? Well, I mean, if we sat back and think about it, government has already involved in youth's lives. You know, there's an age which you can vote. There's an age which you can buy cannabis or alcohol in a licensed retailer. So there's already things out there. And some of it is about protecting youth, you know, increasing their safety based on the fact that, you know, we all, I think, can be honest with each other in saying you're more prone to some reckless decision-making when you're young. You learn some lessons, sometimes the hard way in this life, and those are some of the things that we try to keep away. You can't get behind the wheel of a car with a license until you're a certain age. So we already do certain things like that. And, this to me doesn't really feel like a issue of government overreach, because we can all look around. You can read the peer-reviewed research from wherever about social media, its usage, the amount of time young people spend on it, and people who are adults, but what it means for their happiness and mental well-being. So whether it be the reports that came out that talk about the increased level of depression and anxiety for children under the age of 12 if they get a smartphone, add to it, what do you think it is insofar as net negative for youth under the age of 16? I mean, yes, it can be fun and yes, it can be helpful, but it's not about government for the first time in the history of the modern world where government has restricted access to certain things for young people. And add to it in Australia this. There's thought about it maybe happening in the UK, some consideration for it in France. And I do know we've got like online harms bill being navigated here in this country, but I don't really see the huge downside. Now, the one or the 2 points that we made on it is the question that I heard Jerry Lynn ask a streeter is, who should be responsible for this type of approach to how people use or utilize social media? Is it the government? Not really. Is it the parents? Is it the tech companies? Well, I think we can all say that the tech companies aren't going to be the one to do it, because they obviously don't really care. Why? Because they created algorithms which have proven to be extremely problematic for everyone, and particularly young people. So it boils back to the individual with guidance from their parents, because that's really where it comes from. You know, I heard one of the responses from one of the streeters to Jerry Lynn, and the lady said she sees the top of her daughter's head more than her face because her face is buried in her phone all the time. I think that's pretty popular sentiment. Now, do I spend too much time on my phone? Probably. All right. But I'm also 50-odd years of age, so I think that's a little bit different. So I think there's a conversation to be had about social media and its impact. You add it to the next comment I made after that was about how young people in particular are using artificial intelligence. You know, again, I don't know how some people hear what I say, but just look around at what we see happening right in front of our very eyes. If you had to 10 years ago talk about how do you digest or assess what you're seeing on the internet and or social media, whether or not it's real or accurate, fake and misleading, it was already a problem, and now it is unbelievable problem, because you can generate something using artificial intelligence in a heartbeat that can make its way around the world that is demonstrably false. But like we say, the lie can get around the world before the truth gets out of bed, and that's becoming more and more apparent and more evident. I mean, just look at what credibility has been hampered on things like the 10-year plan for healthcare human resources, because some of the citations were generated by artificial intelligence and they were wrong, they were incorrect, they were false, they didn't exist. Same thing in the education accord, which is a problem. And not the content of those reports, but some of the citations and footnotes attached to it. And then the thought about, being able to think your way through the world. It's a hard place to navigate. The world is complicated, and a bit of critical thinking goes a very, very long way to discern what's real and what's fake, but also just in your day-to-day operations here. So I mentioned this one report that we mentioned on the show and had a couple of interviews about, is how critical thinking has been compromised by the use of these large language models like OpenAI's ChatGPT. And this wasn't work done by a bunch of fly-by-nighters. It was done at MIT in their media lab. I think it's fair to say a pretty reputable organization down at MIT. So they took 54 subjects between the ages of 18 and 39 years old. This was all in the Boston area. And their one task was to write several SAT essays. One group was using ChatGPT, one was simply using Google, and the other was just using their brains. And the results came out crystal clear. The lowest brain activity across all 32 regions in the brain found the group using ChatGPT to be underperforming consistently in neural, linguistic, and behavioral levels. It got a little bit better for the Google group, but it got a lot better for the folks who were just using their brain, their own individual ideas, both for the quality of the essays and both for the ability to regurgitate. what they had written. Because obviously if you use ChatGPT, you just use it, you put the inputs in, it spits something out. So how could you possibly be able to regurgitate something you did not write, that you didn't think your way through? So those two things, I'm pretty sure there are issues today, but they're going to be bigger issues into the future. And picking up what Sarah had to say earlier about, why do people in the province care so much about things that are happening in other parts of the country? Well, for me, I don't know how we can separate out just thinking about this province and nothing but this province, because whether it be political discourse or equalization or healthcare transfers or public policy, how can you ignore some of what's happening here? And I hear people tell me all the time, I wish we had a premier like Daniel Smith. Well, I don't. I mean, just look at how they're using the notwithstanding clause. There's a reason why the notwithstanding clause is there, but isn't it being abused? It kind of looks like it to me. Like 4 times in recent months, the province of Alberta has used the notwithstanding clause so that their policies cannot be challenged. You hear people talk about authoritarians and dictators and communist regimes and all this. Man, when governments are frequently going back to the well to utilize the notwithstanding clause, you're pretty much picking up exactly what you condemn all the time. Nobody wants to be living under a dictator or some sort of authoritarian. But boy, oh boy, when things, whether it be transgender rights or collective bargaining, when you impose a notwithstanding clause, you're pretty much begging for someone to have full authority over you and public policy. You can't challenge it in court. Consequently, it's the law of the land, be damned. Doesn't matter what you think or what you want, that's going to be what's happening. I don't know why we don't have a bit more of a public, nationwide conversation about the utilization of that. I remember Mr. Polyev talked about using it when it came to justice reform, bail and otherwise. And we gave out some bail numbers a little while ago. Everybody, I think, agrees that if you're charged with a violent crime, anything we can do to keep you behind bars until you face the judge or the jury is a good thing. But in Ontario, the numbers are wild. Over 80% of those in an Ontario prison are on remand. They haven't been convicted of anything. In this province, we've got somewhere in the neighborhood of around 60%-ish at HMP who are on remand, haven't been convicted of anything. And the more complicating factor there is we do not track how many people who have been charged with a violent crime that are out on bail and reoffend with another violent crime. It would certainly give us a bit more data to sink our teeth into, and I guess we just have to build. If capacity in Ontario jails is 8,500, but there's 10,800 people in those jails, obviously there's something there. So when we hear the politics of jail, not bail, it sells easy. Why? Because public safety is top of mind for many people in this province and in this country. And the survey done by the Department of Justice and Public Safety here was pretty evident that people feel less safe than they did 5 years ago. Now, some of that is absolutely driven by data and crimes and Statistics Canada. Some of it's driven by the media, which is extremely unfortunate. It's that whole thought, if it bleeds, it leads. And yes, crime does get sensationalized because it gets a lot of eyeballs. It gets a lot of ears. It gets a lot of clicks. People are fascinated, even if they are fearful of crime. Just look at how popular programs on television and movies are that deal with crime. From the Law and Orders all the way down. People are intrigued by that type of happenings, events in society. All right, let's check in on the Twitter before we get to the news. We're VOCM Open Line. You know what to do. You follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, Mike just joined us. He's in the queue to talk about local service district. And that concept of local service district, it's amazing to me that when regionalization was part of the conversation, it got rebuffed pretty much in full because I think we got off on the wrong foot. We really could have and should have included representatives of local service districts, not just incorporated municipalities, so that we had a clear understanding across the board of what regionalization means, how it could work, the benefits, the pros and the cons. But Mike wants to talk about a local service district, and then it's time for you. The topic, up to you. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 1. Mike, you're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Patty. Just want to say thanks for taking my call. I'm getting back to you there. I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago on a local service committee. We're getting going from Marysville area.
Yeah, you had a meeting on a Saturday night to see who was interested in reforming that committee that had been disbanded. Everyone quit, I think I recall.
Well, yeah, already resigned, already had enough of it, whatever way it goes. But no, we done very well. We had big turnout. I was even surprised. And we got a good committee on the go there now. We got a maximum of 7-member committee, and it's just taking time to get everything moving, Paddy. That's what I want the people to know. It just don't happen overnight, and that's where we're to.
So you did get 7 people interested in sitting on the committee?
Yeah, they're all sworn in. Well, except for one person, he was working night shift. He got to get sworn in, and she's ready to roll.
That's good news, because the worry was whether or not people wanted to take on what could be a very difficult and sometimes a thankless task.
Oh, it's very thankless, but we're willing to give it a go. And that's where we stand. Like you said, now I just posted a few signs on our mailboxes and website. We got a lady really doing a good job on a website, and we got to have another general meeting before we can really get started. So we're all going home after the meeting and ready to do what we can do for the community.
Good on you, Mike. So what's near or at the top of the list for concerns and business that needs to be done in Marysville?
Some general maintenance, water leaks, and but the big problem, Paddy, like I often heard you say with governments, we haven't got a spending problem. We got a money problem here in this community, right? And so we're hoping to move forward with the people we got that got elected and sworn in. I think we'll do a good job. So I just want to let the people know.
Well, I'm glad that you had 7 people step up to the plate, and I wish all of them, including yourself, good luck, Mike. I appreciate the update too.
Yes, and thanks for taking my call again, Paddy. And a lot of people do listen to your show. Don't mind what some people says there, but I know a lot of people come along to me when I'm getting a coffee and say, "Oh, I heard you on Open Line," or whatever. But before I goes off there now, I'd just like to send out a thank you to John Ottenheimer for coming to the local hall there and swearing our members in, and Brian Ryan for loaning us the hall.
Good on all of them. Mike, appreciate the time. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you take care, Paddy, and have a good Christmas. And our Habs are not doing very good.
Yeah, a bit of a slide on the go here now, unfortunately.
That's it.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
All the best.
Care,
all right. Bye-bye. All right, let's keep rolling. Let's go to line number 2. Greg, you're on the air.
Thank you, Patty, for taking my call. I just want to express my opinion about artificial intelligence and its use.
Yep.
And I was listening to Charles Darwin's theory on evolution last night, and I thought, well, natural selection allows us the ability to use these things like computers and that, right? So why shouldn't we use artificial intelligence to our advantage instead of using pencil and paper to draw with?
We can and should use artificial intelligence to our benefit. The problem is all the negatives that come with it, which will be plenty. I've kind of spoken to some of them already. So, yeah, there's plenty of good things we can do. Applications of AI in healthcare, for instance, are looking to be very promising. But there's also some of the distinct downsides, and that's just my personal opinion. Some people might love it and have a big reliance on AI. If we talk about the amount of energy required, we talk about the amount of water required to cool off these super hot data centers or servers. So there's good and bad, like everything else in this world. I just think that we're going to see more of the bad percolate up inside of just societal conversations versus industry applications. That's just my thoughts on it.
Okay, I was talking about OpenAI, and I can use it on the computer now to my advantage to create images and create poems and discuss news and all that. But I don't really know. For me, it's just the amount of electricity that I use for a computer to do that. But where the computing comes from to begin with to use OpenAI, I don't know. But I guess if it's from a cloud service, then I don't understand the problem, you know?
The data servers required to boost artificial intelligence is a big conversation. The amount of power is unbelievable. They're looking at, by the end of this decade, some 10% of the power generated in the world will simply be for artificial intelligence. So it's fun to be able to go in there and create a poem or an image or whatever very quickly inside your own home with your own power bill. But the amount of power required to actually give you that energy inside your home is enormous. Same thing with the amount of water to cool the servers. It's just astronomical, the needs for these data centers.
Right, but I mean, China's doing it, and Russia's doing it. I mean, they have more artificial intelligence in China, so they're advanced in science better than we are.
I think science.
And not only that, Russia is too. Yes.
Yeah, I think inside the world of science, what the keys there would be, creating and generating science that creates intellectual property, which can be monetized. We're way behind the rest of the world on that front here in Canada. So, I mean, I don't know about comparisons to other countries in the use of AI, but it's also important to note, not because I say so, but because actual academia has done the work for me, is ChatGPT, which is probably one of the most popular large language models. It's wrong as much as it's right insofar as the information it produces. So again, when you have a human being who has had to do the research, whether it be on Google or whatever, or at a library, and have to provide citations so that we can, fact check what has been written and produced, that seems to me to be the most effective way to get things right versus just rely on an algorithm to get it right, because ChatGPT is as wrong as it is right, as often wrong as it is right.
Well, I'm using OpenAI and Microsoft OpenAI, and it's always right. And if it's not right, I question it. Like I'm be questioning you, whether you're wrong or right, and it would give me an answer. But I mean, I have to be very specific, and I can ask it about news that's going on today, and it will tell me what it knows. So it's up to me to be more specific and ask, even when I'm writing a poem or anything like that. And it is my intellectual property,
Is it though? That's a good question. I hadn't really thought about it like that. But is what's generated by you using artificial intelligence actually your IP? I don't know. I don't think so.
It is my intellectual property. Yes, it is. Yes. When OpenAI, it is. Yes. And OpenAI, Microsoft OpenAI, is censored, right? So I cannot just go and ask to create images of, say, the Pope and other people like that, because it will not do that, and it's very selective on how it restricts me from asking questions about things it doesn't want an answer to give, it's censored, right? Whereas ChatGPT probably is more critical and probably would give you these answers, and but I'm just expressing my opinion here.
I get it.
The knowledge that I know.
Yeah, and it can be extremely fun, and it's fascinating to watch. But, even something that we refer to as a human phenomenon, as a hallucination, that's actually a word being applied now to things like OpenAI's ChatGPT, is the possibility for a machine to hallucinate, which is kind of scary when you think about it in real terms. But yeah, the few times that I've fooled around with it, just to see how it works, I don't use it every day because I just don't. I choose not to. But yeah, it's fascinating what can happen in seconds flat that would have taken the human being, weeks or months to produce. It's wild, really.
Exactly, yes, but machines don't hallucinate. People do. Machines aren't on drugs. It's just the people who are using them that are on drugs that don't have the neural capacity to create the images they want. And, if people are blind to whatever they think they see and cannot read properly, then it's their problem. Their misinterpretation, not the creator.
Yeah,
or the person who invents the images through OpenAI. You understand what I mean?
I do. But, I mean, what you're producing for your own interests or your own amusement or enjoyment is one thing. It's how it's used to produce things like legislation, how it's used to produce things like public policy. That's where I think we've got ourselves a bit of a problem here, because basically how it works, and I don't pretend to be an expert in this field, but, it's like everything else in this world where you rely on an algorithm. So garbage in equals garbage out. And if ChatGPT is scouring the internet for information to answer your query or to produce your poem, then there's lots of information on the internet that is verifiably inaccurate. So ChatGPT can actually just get bogus information for you. I mean, look at the education record. Someone used AI to provide some citations or footnotes, 15 of which proved to be made up, fictitious, didn't exist. So there's possibilities to get it wrong. And put it this way, I saw something from a teacher, and I found it to be really quite interesting. They said they acknowledge and understand the fact that their students are going to use ChatGPT, and there's no way to stop them. So what the teacher is now saying is they're going to allow their students to produce the project or the essay with ChatGPT, but the question is then, prove whether or not what ChatGPT produced is right or wrong, accurate or not. So it's an interesting take on it from an educator, is that they're going to let their students use it, but they want them to back up what ChatGPT produced by further research. Interesting take.
Well, shouldn't it be on the teacher's onus to see if it's similarities and comparisons, right? Similarities, coincidences, right? I mean, if you and I were to write an essay on paper, then we did the same study in school, there would be similarities and coincidences on things words that we were interpreting, essays and so on that we would interpret the same, right? Yeah. This is the same way using OpenAI, isn't it? Or am I wrong?
Maybe in part, but of course, when we talk about the onus on teachers to verify as to whether or not a student has used it, because they, I think, acknowledge that students are going to use it. There's actually software has been created to identify when something has been produced in part or in full by ChatGPT, and I know that's not the only large language model out there, but it's the most commonly used, I think. So, but we also have teachers who have a pretty significant workload already, an added burden of having to verify every word, because people have been plagiarizing since the beginning of time. But there's a difference between stealing a line from a research book than it is simply saying to ChatGPT, give me 1,000 words about the Summit series. So, yeah, I know where you're coming from, but I think how governments use it and how people can use it for nefarious reasons to produce completely bogus, misleading disinformation that influences people's thoughts. So there's a difference between that and how you use it.
Well, this information that you don't like is like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? And it's the same with ugliness is in the eye of the beholder too. So if you're critical, like I said, if you're a teacher and you're critical about what a student writes, then you can compare it to what the other students are writing, and if it's like I'm just repeating myself over for the second time. The teacher is the one who has to correct the papers, right? Why should the teacher go through all the problems of checking out everything on the internet, which must be an awful burden to the teacher, instead of accepting what's written and comparing it to other students and giving it a mark? Do you understand?
Yeah, I get that as a snapshot in time, but the problem into the future will be if that young person in that classroom did not do any of the work themselves, then what happens into the future? When they're going to have day-to-day issues they have to navigate as an adult, as a father or a mother or someone employed in whatever field in this world, if we've taken away some of their ability to grow over years, to critically think and to advance their critical thinking skills, that's a net negative. Because if people are fully reliant on machines to produce what they should have been able to think of themselves, it might not be a snapshot in time problem today for the grade 6 student producing an essay, but when they become a 26-year-old and things have changed and they have to rely on their own wits and skills and critical thinking, then we've kind of betrayed them. We've allowed them to take the lazy way out. And the lazy way out might be efficient insofar as work, as opposed to working hard, work smart, but the only way you can work smart is if you are smart. And being smart requires critical thought.
Which brings me back to what I was reading last night about Charles Darwin and his observation on natural selection and that, and also on people. Some people have the ability to use this, some people don't have the ability to use this. So I go with Darwin in saying that on observation, if people don't have the ability to use this, then they have other abilities, right? So I would say that if the ability to use this is an advantage to young people, then they should use it. And if it's not an ability to some people, then they shouldn't use it. That's my final remark.
Yeah, and
thank you for that.
And I appreciate your time. Thanks for calling.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, bye, Greg. And of course, natural selection, some of the keys are adapting to your environment. But then it's not just talking about you as an individual and you as a snapshot in time. It's also talking about passing along, what's the right way to put it? Passing along advantageous, heritable traits to your offspring, which is part of natural selection. So if we create a group of people as adolescents today, and they become adults, they've reduced drastically their ability to think critically. They pass on those traits to their offspring because, most everything you learn starts at home. Yeah, we could talk about book learning in school, but a lot of what you're going to learn about yourself, learn about the world, learn about life, if it doesn't come, or at least start at home, and if we start at home with a bunch of people that can only produce any thoughts by using a large language model, then I just think there's a snowball there that's probably not in our best interest, just like social media. Started off fantastic. Is it any longer? Not really. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go. Line number 3, Conway, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
I'm phoning in regarding our halibut here in 4R. Now, I found out this morning there was up to and could be over 30% of the quota still left in the water. Now, we're on what we call a cap system on our halibut. Now, it's not that we're looking for anybody else's fish, but this fish is basically going to be left in the water again this year, and I found out that there was a significant amount left in the water last year. And I've been talking to DFO and the union, and like I told DFO, you expect to leave fish in the water and leave us all on $500 a week unemployment when we could be out making thousands of dollars a week. And it's a cap system, so, it runs the same way the hearing system runs on caps, or Caitlin, or Northern 2J Turbot. It's cap system. What fish is not caught is lifted into the overall pot, and then it's distributed through the fishermen that's willing to go fish again.
Okay, just basic question. Why would so much of the quota or the cap be left in the water?
Well, I guess it got to do with everybody's got a cap, and it starts right after our lobster season's over. That's in my area here. Some places it starts earlier. Probably people don't get their whole cap. They'll leave 200 or 300 pound here or more in the water. Some people just didn't go at it. Like I know right now, there's boats that put in for this month and they just didn't go at it. Got too cold. I guess they went somewhere else to went to work. Something. They just did not go at it. Now, I do realize that there's probably 5 or 6 boats that's waiting for a good day to go at it, but these boats are not going to catch 30% of the quota. They only got their own cap. And if they do go at it, and like I told DFO, this is a cap system. It's a stroke of a pen. She can write down another 2,000 pound on top of what we got to catch. That's how it works. Just prints off another set of conditions, and you can go on and catch it. And if the fellas still got fish in the water, I'm sure they'll be happy with another 2,000 pound on top of it. You leave it open for 2 weeks, where it gets caught, you come back, you reevaluate how much quota is left, and then we start again. We got from March to March to catch this quota. That's the federal limit. When the quotas come out in March, and you got till the 1st of March to catch it. And why DFO and the union the union especially haven't brought this up. I'm bringing it up now. I was just voted in and to the member for this area, so now I'm bringing it up. Our economy needs it. DFO is not allowed to leave it in the water. We are the custodial management of this fish, and we need it to keep our economies going, not to leave it in the water. It's not helping anybody.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense. I asked because I thought maybe there's some relationship with processing capacity or what have you, but I asked because I had no idea what the answer was.
Well, processing capacity, it comes in, the head takes off of it, he washes it, packs it in boxes, and sends it off to the market. I mean, it's not. There's no big processing to a halibut. People want to buy a halibut, they buy a whole halibut, like the restaurants, anywhere, the big Dominions or Foodlands or whoever, and I mean they buy the halibut in whole, or they can make their nice little steaks to put on your plate when you comes into the restaurant. So, I mean, there's no reason why. They can give 1,000 reasons why they don't want to do it. But footwork, everything is all there for every other fishery. And I'm putting this out there because something has to be done. Someone has to wake up and realize there's a lot of money left in the water. You're talking a fish right now is anywhere from being $12 to $14 a pound. So just imagine if you got another 2,000 pound to go catch. You're looking at a lot of money.
Yeah, the math's pretty clear, isn't it?
So, and I mean, 30% of the quota left in the water. So anyway, I phone in to let everybody know what's going on, that we're not here trying to take somebody else's fish, but the fellas that still got quota to catch, I'm sure they could use another 2,000 pounds. And their boats are still in the water. Somebody gets a 2,000 pound, give us an extra 2 weeks. When it comes back, count up, see how much fish is left, and if they can give us another 500, if it's good enough to go, whether it's sensible. We need money, not $500 a week. This is ridiculous with the price of everything, groceries, gas. Just the cost of living, getting out of bed in the morning costs more than $500 a week.
Yeah, the price of everything. You're 100% right. Conway, I got to get to the news, but we'll do our level best to get an answer because it doesn't really make any sense to me. But of course, I'm not a fish harvester, so I don't know. But
no, but this has to be put out there. I mean, this is the money for our economy that needs to be brought up, and that's why it's not being let into our economy. So, thank you.
I appreciate the time, Conway. Thanks for the call. Yeah. All right, there you go. Yeah, why something inside or under the cap is left in the water? Good question. Let's get a break in for the news. When we come back, Patrick's in the queue to talk about a land dispute and then whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the program. Let's go. Line number 1. Patrick, you are on the air.
Hello, Paddy.
Hi there.
Paddy, I was down to Lands and Deeds there about 2 years ago or 3 years ago now to get into my grandfather's quietening of the title, and they told me that I got to get a lawyer to get into the file, and I can't get near a lawyer. I'm after phoning 30, and there's nobody near one of them come down and help me get into my grandfather's quietening of the title. I was wondering if you could get a lawyer for me to help me to go down and do it.
Well, I don't know if I can get you a lawyer, but I do know that a couple of lawyers dealing with Crown Lands and Lands and Deeds and quieting of titles listen to this program and chime in all the time. I will send off a note to one such lawyer on your behalf. I can't promise anything because I can't manage that person's own personal time or professional time, but I can try.
Yeah, because I got to get into that file, quietening of my grandfather, because he left it to me mother, who left it to me, see?
Yeah.
And if I get to that file, then this will be straightened up. And these people that's doing this to me now, this long while, because when I was selling some ground in 2009, I'm after finding out now that surveys were done in 2001, and my mother's cancer come back in 2002, and she was dying in the dead all of 2003. Yes, she died on January the 25th. In 2004, and we laid her to rest in the cemetery until 2008. And I know who's after doing it, but I can't get nothing done about it.
Yeah, I can't make any promises because, of course, like I said, I can't manage other people's time, but I will zip off a couple of quick notes on your behalf. That's no problem.
Okay, thank you, Paddy. I need every bit of help I can get because this is family members I'm talking about.
Oh, I totally understand and been there. I'll see what I can do, Patrick. Leave it with me.
Okay, thank you, Paddy.
You're welcome.
God bless.
Take care. Bye-bye. Yeah, man. things shouldn't be that difficult. Let's go. Line number 2, say good morning to the President and Chair at the Universal Design Network. That's Sandra Cunning. Hello, Sandra. You're on the air.
Hi, Patty. Thanks so much for speaking to me again. This is a follow-up of our conversation last week.
Yep.
So really happy to speak to you. Just wanted to do a shout-out that the City of St. John's has released the new Universal Design Resources to support the creation of accessible and inclusive housing. And so we have partnered with the fabulous City of St. John's. Lots of connections by Councillor or Deputy Mayor Ellsworth, and now Councillor Hammond is taking the lead and working closely with Tricia Rose, who is the inclusion facilitator for the city. So we now have the Universal Design Network of Newfoundland and Labrador home building checklist released, and the Universal Design Guide for accessible and inclusive housing. And so it's on the city's website. It was released yesterday and went through council, and we just really like everybody to check it out.
Can you give us a little cheat sheet here about what kind of things are included?
So the first one is the Universal Guide for Accessible and Inclusive Homes. And it's just like what to know. What does universal design mean? What do inclusive homes look like? From the Rick Hansen Foundation, kind of mythbusters about what universal design means. And then the home building checklist really is a checklist that takes you through kind of every room in the house that looks at visitable, UD ready, and really gold star UD design homes. And it's backed up with references from the CSA and CMHA and other sources. So how, in real terms, is this to be applied? So is this a guideline or a rule book for every developer or for city developments, or how is this going to be used? Well, I think that's going to be an evolving question. I think really this is a guide and a checklist to help homeowners and builders and developers think about how do we build a more inclusive community for people of all ages and stages, persons with disabilities. And so if people can pick it up and look at it and think ahead of time when they're going to build, or think about how they might do a renovation. And obviously, we'd really love to see everybody kind of adopt this, but use it as a guide to start thinking and pre-planning what you're going to do. And we'd love to see developers. I'd also love to see real estate agents pick it up and start commenting or coming up with an index related to UD. We have walkability and livability indexes. It would be really nice to see realtors start to think about universal design index. Yeah, because, as we mentioned in our last conversation, or at least I think we did, it's sometime into the future, you may indeed be in need of these types of designs in your own home. So, and we talk about cost and what it means into the future. So if you design it appropriately now for what might happen into the future, you're in money. You're up money. Absolutely. It's more cost efficient and not that really insignificantly in terms of many of the costs up front. And also, the future might not be that far away. If you have a young and growing family, a lot of these designs are, help young families with strollers. They help people who might have an unexpected and catastrophic injury. They really also help bring friends and family members who might have challenges around accessibility to be able to visit and reduce isolation and really form connections. So it might be in the future, but the future might be sooner than you think. Yeah, fair enough. Well said. Anything else we need to know about it this morning, Sandra? No, just really appreciate the time and directing people to go check it out. And thanks again from UDNNL to the city for their fantastic partnership. And I'm glad it worked out the way it did. Patty. Yeah, my pleasure. Happy to have you on. Take care. Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye. Certainly when we talk about universal design for private developers, building houses on spec, I'll leave it up to you, right? It's your money and your thoughts as to what's appropriate inside your own home. But this is just a very quick reference and a funny story insofar as academics and the use of artificial intelligence. So I won't give away the person's name. So they are
they belong to someone or in a relationship with someone who works at one of the institutions of higher learning. And they have to determine on their own as to whether or not their students have used artificial intelligence. And to accuse or to prove plagiarism is a very lengthy process and always has been. But this is the funny story part. However, one student left on both sides of their paper, quote unquote, "Would you like me to make it sound more personal?" They got caught, because that's one of the prompts that you get on the heels of the initial document being produced is, "Would you like me to make this sound and read more personal?" And of course, pretty dead giveaway, and the result, they got caught. Let's take a break here. And what the penalty for plagiarism these days in school? It used to be that you were kicked out. It's certainly when we talked at the university level. But anyway, let's get a break in. When we come back, still another segment left for you. Do not go away. Welcome back. Let's go. Line number 3. Wayne, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. I found a set of keys this morning when I was out for a walk by the mailbox on Galaxy Crescent in Airport Heights. Just want to put it out there to let somebody know if they lost a set of keys.
And good on you for picking it up and letting us know. So Galaxy Crescent, Airport Heights, lost keys by the mailbox. So if you lost your keys, Wayne has them. Do you want people to call you, Wayne, or call us?
They can call you, and you can call me, I guess.
Yeah, that works for us.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Wayne.
Okay, no problem. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye. Yeah, what a drag it is to lose your keys. Let's go to line number 1. Jim, you're on the air.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Every morning is a good morning. I can wake up and get the energy and strength to get out of bed, go and use the bathroom, come out and have a meal. My glass is always full, never half empty.
Good.
Anyway, everybody got a brain and opinion. And I got a question this morning on my mind.
Okay.
And that's regarding our city hall. I understand the property tax is going up. And in that regard, I'm just looking, I understand Halifax is twice the size of St. John's. Halifax, they got a mayor and a deputy mayor and 14 councillors. St. John's, they get mayor, deputy mayor, and 9 councillors. Does that make sense? How big is Corner Brook out there?
How large is the council?
Yeah.
Not sure.
Okay, that's one question I got. Another one question. I understand that our St. John's Council got 1,000 employees. How many employees have Halifax got in Corner Brook per household, or whatever you want to compare it with?
I mean, I don't know those numbers.
But that's my 2 questions that came in my mind this morning. When I heard Ron Williamsworth and saying there's we're expecting our property tax to go up. I had 2 experiences with the city. One experience, I went down to looking for information regarding putting a shed on my property. I have 1/3 of an acre of building lot, probably one of the biggest ones in St. John's. There were 4 women behind the council down there. And I asked them, I said, what is the regulation regarding clearances and that? And not one of them could answer it. They went inside and spoke to somebody, one of them did, and come outside and we said, well, give me a name and number and I'll get somebody to call you. And they told me very simply, I'll be 8 feet away from my house and 4 feet away from fence or boundary line. I said, how about the power coming from my house? They didn't know the answer. Why couldn't they turn around when I went in and they say, what do you want, sir? I said, information regarding building a shed in the garden. Why couldn't they turn around and pass me out a package with the information on it? Is that difficult or complex? Do I blame the girls? No. I blame the supervisor for not training these girls in. And I also blame the council for why in the hell they got 4 people working behind the council and neither one knew anything. To me, it doesn't make sense. It's not logical. It's not common sense.
Okay.
And the earlier experience, one time I was up, I go for a walk, and I'm living down here off Lucky Bay Road. And I go up around Strangler, up or down and walk, and snow train walk up there. I looked over there was a flower bed there, going into a little playground there. And there was 2 council trucks there with 8 men standing there talking. Does that make sense? Are we grossly overstaffed at City Hall, and this is why our property taxes are going up? We definitely got more councillors than we need in relationship to everybody else. I understand down there, Sandy Hickman got this is 21st year. I give Sandy Hickman credit for one thing. Every time I looked at him and looked at him in the council meeting, his eyes were closed. And now he's wearing dark glasses so you can't see his eyes.
Yeah, I don't know or care about that. So someone just sent me a note. Quick enough, you had a question, someone had an answer. So the City of St. John's employs between 1,200 and 1,400 people based on the season, and apparently Halifax has around 5,400 people work for the Halifax Regional Municipal Authority.
Okay. That's fair enough, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I had no idea. Someone just sent me that number. And I know this person. They live in Dartmouth.
I don't know a number. I haven't got a computer. I haven't got a cell phone. I'm not interested in either one of it.
Fair enough. Some days I wish I wasn't either.
No, when I was born and reared in St. John's, I remember leaving my house, walking up Bannerman Street, going into Bannerman Park, going down Bannerman. There's a little shed down there with a wood stove into it, and there was a skating rink down there, and you skate around it. And then they got the loop up there. But I'm too old to go skating anyway, so doesn't matter what they got.
Fair enough. And as a resident of St. John's, I'm anxious to find out what this particular budget looks like. And, you know, curiously, Mount Pearl, they tabled their budget yesterday. No change to the mill rate, no change to water fees. That budget is about $62 million. St. John's over $300 million. So let's see here. The mill rate...
Why is that budget over $300 million? That's the question, isn't it?
What's the question?
Why is our budget over $3 million? It's because it's absolutely necessary to have this staff. It's necessary to have the number of councillors we got. What do the councillors do other than attend the meetings? Just stop and give us 1 second. I remember Knights of Columbus up in St. Clair's. They just had a big party for the poor. They're strictly run by volunteers. The Legion and the Shriners and all the minor sports here, all of them are run by volunteers. I don't know if you're a volunteer. I spent 30 years volunteering. But all these people are running by volunteers. And yet we got a council down there, the council members down there, the minimum paying down there, I don't know what they're paying now. But last year I understand they were getting 50,000. I don't know what the mayor's getting, the deputy mayor's getting.
Yeah, over $100,000 for the mayor. I'm not sure the rest. Council members themselves don't get paid very much, and I would imagine it's a very busy job.
Yeah. But they're missing getting paid something. Look at the money they're spending on advertising, trying to get elected. Why would you go through all that trouble? Spend money on getting something, making up signs and go around putting up signs.
But that's their own money.
Paid.
That's not.
Of course they're getting paid. Last I heard, they were getting $50,000 a year.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't begrudge a city councillor getting paid.
But why? But look all the volunteers we got here. The volunteers are the backbone of society.
Yeah, if you backed out volunteers, government wouldn't be able to pick up the slack. I agree with that. Anything else quick, Jim, before I have to say goodbye?
No, that's my question. Why is taxes going up?
Well, I don't know if they are.
Because
we're told they might.
I don't know.
I guess we'll all find out when they table the budget next.
When I get my bill property tax, I pay within 30 days. That's all I know.
Good on you, because there's plenty of people out there who are in arrears with the city.
Well, boy, I'm not in arrears.
Good. Good for you. I appreciate the call. Thanks, Jim.
Of being in arrears.
Good. Again, appreciate your time.
But the only guys I see about sitting here, I'm down the lake, a little cul-de-sac, and the ground will be white with sand, with salt. Why can't they be using a bigger percentage of sand with salt? Why is it they got to come down and put salt there all the time?
I don't know.
All it does, they come down here, and where I'm at the end, they take the salt with a bit of snow and they push it up on the lawn and burn my lawn up. Anyway, that's my rant for the day.
Appreciate your time. Thanks a lot, Jim.
I feel better anyway.
Good.
I know you can agree or disagree. I don't care. I got my opinion, and that's my opinion. And everybody got an opinion.
That's one thing for sure.
You know?
Yeah.
If I didn't have an opinion, you wouldn't have a job, would you, up there?
Exactly right. And I appreciate your call. We're out of time for this morning, but stay in touch.
Okay, you take care.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Okay, have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Like my wife used to say, have a good...
Yeah. I'm sorry, is he still there? I can't hear him. Okay. And the Mount Pearl City Council tabled their budget. They held things pretty firm. Mill rate did not change for the residential rate payers, 7.7 mils. Commercial rate remains the same, 12.4 mils. Water fees, the same, $6.25 per unit. Waste collection, same at $20. But we're told to beware that there may indeed be a hike in my property tax. My property assessment is up. Whether or not that means there's also going to be an adjustment upwards on the mill rate, I guess we'll all find out at the same time. All right, good show today. Big thanks to all hands. We will indeed pick up this conversation again tomorrow morning, right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy day. We'll talk in the morning. Bye-bye.